What about your situation, Sol? Will you be staying at Tottenham?
I'm staying. So now we've got on Felix Tamsut, who is an Israeli but also a German football correspondent for DW Sports, a journalist for DW Sports, discussing German football. You're also a lot into your fan culture and your fan rights and making sure that fans get their say. So just wanted to start with, for us that don't really know what's going on in the Bundesliga and how Frankfurt are doing, how are Frankfurt doing so far this season? And how are they doing going into the game?
Yeah, well, it's a funny one with Frankfurt because they ended last season on a massive high, like that Europa League semi-final against Chelsea is a game that's going to be discussed for ages in the city. Generally speaking, in terms of their style of play, it was very enjoyable, attacking football, easy on the eye, very aggressive in midfield, like the sort of football that fans love to love, basically. This season, they started basically where they left off, but they lost to Augsburg last weekend, which wasn't to be expected. Augsburg are not one of the Bundesliga's best sides. And it seems like their start of the season is a bit shaky. To be fair to them, they lost at least three key players. They're basically, their attack has been discussed all over Europe last season. Like Luka Jovic moved to Real Madrid, Sebastian Haller moved to West Ham. And there's Ante Rebic that just signed for AC Milan. Having said that, they made really, really good signings in attack. Bas Dost, a proven Bundesliga striker, scored loads of goals for Wolfsburg and for Lisbon. And they have Gonzalo Paciencia, a young Portuguese striker that was mostly injured last season. But when he played, he was absolutely brilliant, and he continues that trend this season. And I'm really looking forward for them bonding and sort of realizing their potential, mostly in attack. But their style of play is loads of fun. They're not going to be scared of Arsenal. They're going to come out and get them. They're not going to sit back and defend all the time. I think they've shown that also this season with Chelsea. Coach Adi Hutter, quick word about him. He took a side that used to be known for being like combative defensive football under Niko Kovac, today Bayern's coach, and he turned them into a unit in attack. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out between Frankfurt and Arsenal, two actually like a bit similar styles of play in terms of how attacking their orientation is, but I really do think Eintracht could give Arsenal a run for their money, definitely.
So obviously with the game coming up on Thursday now, last year we were used to seeing Jovic and Haller, as you mentioned. Do you think that the Eintracht Frankfurt will change up their style maybe to play Arsenal? How do you think that they'll play the game?
No, I don't think they'll change anything. If there's anything they proved last season was that they play their style of play. It doesn't matter against who, and it doesn't matter under what circumstances. Like the best examples I have to give, first of all, is Chelsea. They weren't afraid of Chelsea in that semi-final. They basically took the game to them in attack. The second example that I always like to mention in the context of Frankfurt was Lazio away last season. They played in the group stage. They won all 5 previous games. And they did win it. They were the only team in Europe that had a perfect record in the group stage competition.
So for Frankfurt, we obviously in the previous episode we discussed about Arsenal's approach to the Europa League, as to whether they'll prioritise the league or the Europa League. For Frankfurt, how do you think they will? Do you think they'll prioritise the league and try and get a top four finish in Germany, or will they go for the Europa League to try and get a Champions League place?
Europe means everything to Frankfurt. Europa League means everything to Frankfurt. They will never prioritize anything over Europe. Anything. It's a city, by the way, not only as a club. Frankfurt is a city that celebrates its Europeanness in a way that I don't think there's. Maybe Strasbourg is a bit like that as well. But everywhere you go in the city, you feel European. Everywhere you go, you see European flags. European institutions are all over the city. The city is very, very multicultural, very, very international, very accepting to other cultures, other groups of people. And the result of that is that I don't think there's, not in Germany for sure, but I don't think there's any city in Europe that celebrates its Europeanness the same as Frankfurt. And that affects the football club. They play O2 Joy during games and stuff. Their Europeanness means a lot to them as a club and as a city. And that's why I don't see any situation whatsoever that Eintracht Frankfurt will prioritize anything over Europe.
Okay, how far do you think Frankfurt can go in the competition? They got to semi-final last year, but obviously they're missing some players now. So do you think they can win it almost?
It's a difficult question. It all depends like how their new players are going to click. I think they made good signings. I think it has a potential to sort of bode well, but it remains to be seen. That's always the case with new signings. I mean, it takes time for them to sort of get used to the tactical ideas of the coach, especially with a coach with such clear, definitive tactical ideas like Adi Hütter. I don't think they're going to win it. I think that's a bit unrealistic given the players that they just lost. Having said that, I do see them doing well, getting to, the knockout stages probably. Yeah, I believe if they'll get to the last 16 or the quarterfinals, they'll be happy. Because as I said, for Frankfurt, it's about taking part. It's about being in Europe. It's about staying in Europe as long as possible. Every single European away days is an absolute celebration for their fans. Like, I think you'll see it in London when they come over. I would assume, I don't know, I'm not sure what the allocation will be and what the situation will be like with tickets, but you can expect like 5-digit numbers of fans heading to Frankfurt, from Frankfurt or Germany to London. They're a mad bunch. They make a very, very different atmosphere to most German fans. Even they're very well organized. They're crazy in the best way possible, and I think you're gonna enjoy it there when they come over to play Arsenal away.
I'm just wondering though, because you mentioned that they've lost quite a few of their players. They only signed Jovic about like 6 months ago or so, and there's like a trend now of teams who aren't the big European giants buying these players and then trying to sell them on. And by looks of things, Frankfurt sold quite a few of their big players. Do you think clubs can rebuild like this, and how do you think Frankfurt will do? Because I think Real Betis did it as well. But so how do you think Frankfurt will do?
I think in Frankfurt's case, they have a very, very clear philosophy of the players they sign. They have a sporting director, Freddy Bobic, former Germany striker, that brought a very clear philosophy in terms of their transfer dealings in the last 3 seasons. Also in terms of the coaches he signed. And it proved to be successful. That profile is generally young players that were sort of made the move to Europe, but it didn't really work out for them yet. Ante Rebic is a good example of that. He was in Fiorentina in the reserves there, didn't really get any minutes. But Freddy Bobic saw his potential and signed him when he was relatively young and unproven, and he proved to be a brilliant signing. Same with Luka Jovic. Luka Jovic was at Benfica, spent lots of time on the bench, was a young striker that Freddy Bobic knew. They have a very good network of scouts in the Balkan countries and Serbia, Croatia, this sort of areas. Luka Jovic is another example of that. And shortly later, 65 million for Real Madrid. So it's a very clear philosophy. I think in a way, their signing of Bas Dost, like Dutch international striker, is a bit of it doesn't fit that platform, but I think they also understand they need goals, and Bas Dost is a man that will give you goals. Having said that, their other signing, Jovic, another Serbian striker, young striker they just signed. And as I mentioned, Paciencia, the third wheel in the newly formed Eintracht attack, is exactly that sort of profile. They signed him, I think, from the Porto reserves 2 years ago, and he's been brilliant for them so far. I really do think Eintracht are very smart with their transfer dealings. They know how to make use of their money, and now they have money, especially given all the transfers with Haller and Jovic. And they're going about this really, really wisely. I think many clubs could do worse than learning from them, to be honest.
So when we talk about German football, as an English supporter, there's a very noticeable difference in terms of fan culture. So when I go to a game, obviously at Spurs, there's lots of tourists and there's lots of the atmosphere isn't as good. Why do you think that the atmosphere in Germany is much more electric and intimidating for opposition teams to go to?
I think it's more. It's down to many reasons. First of all, I think the game in Germany is constructed this way that, put it this way, outside influences are not really wanted. Clubs here are, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, are. We need to take a step back in order to understand this. The word club in German, it's called Verein, and it doesn't mean exactly a club. It means some sort of a unification of a group of people that are, unified under a certain group to achieve a certain goal. For instance, the biggest Verein, again, it's not exactly a club, but let's just call it a club for the sake of the discussion. The biggest club in Germany is ADAC. It's basically a club for drivers' rights, and the club that helps drivers that are stranded in roads. They have 2 million members. So from that concept, the concept of a club in Germany was born. Every single club in the profession, again, most of them, some of them are a bit of exceptions, but they are like clubs that have to be owned or controlled by at least one share more by their members. And that means the club has to have this orientation for the local community, has to have connection to the local community, must be involved in the local community. Because at the end of the day, the people that run the club, the people that vote for the top positions at the club are all members. My example, I live in Cologne. I am an Erste FC Köln member, FC Cologne, the club here. A few weeks ago, there was the yearly member meeting. There was the yearly AGM. There were new candidates to the two vice president position and the new president, and they presented themselves. They said, "I'm this and this and this. This is what I've done in life. This is my track record. This is what I want to do with the club. This is where I want to take this club in the future." That not only goes for football, by the way, not only goes for like men's football, women's football. In some case, in Borussia Dortmund's case, it's handball or volleyball, one of the two. I don't remember. Many Eintracht Frankfurt have, if I recall, 22 or 23 sports, different types of sports. They have many, and that goes for the whole club. And the members are the ones that determine who will be the people that lead the club. And as a result from this culture, in addition to the fact that German football fans, and as a result of also the ultra subculture, are very, very well organized, and they know to demand their rights. I think as a result of those two things, German football is ahead when it comes to fan rights, when it comes to friendly fan experience, when it comes to drinking beer in your seat rather than in the concourse, when it comes to affordable ticket prices, when it comes to a certain amount of season tickets and affordable season ticket prices. I go to a stand in Cologne where I stand. There is no seating there. It's a standing section, and people pay 130 euros per season for a season ticket. So,
Yeah.
And that's very typical. Like, it's not different. Sometimes it's a bit more, sometimes it's a bit less. But this just goes to show the level of like fan orientation that they have here. There are forces that try and sort of say, yeah, we see what's going on in England. We see how good Liverpool are. We see how good Man City are. Maybe we should bring in more investors. But I think the rejection of that notion is so strong that right now this is mostly in the sidelines. I would hope that it remains that way personally, but it remains to be seen what happens in the future. Right now, I don't see it changing anytime soon, thankfully.
I was wondering, because as an Arsenal fan, tickets and season tickets could not be more expensive. It's literally the worst in probably the world, I would say. Do you think, how much of an impact do you think the price of tickets in German football helps the clubs and helps the fans and makes the fans better because of the prices being a lot lower?
I think it's a combination of two things. First of all, I think, yes, it has an element of keeping football affordable. Fans here are very, very aware of their rights. They are very, very well coordinated. And if they decide that something doesn't fit them, they will protest and they will coordinate between themselves. Rivalries go straight out the window when it comes to fan rights here. The best example I have to give was the campaign against the Football Association and the Football League last season. Every single ultra group, fan group took part. It doesn't matter if their two were rivals or whatever, they were all there. Another example is like there were new police laws legislated in several German states last season. I remember I attended a protest in Düsseldorf. That it's obviously a topic that affects many football fans, or many match-going football fans, I should say. And I attended a protest in Düsseldorf in which fan groups from FC Köln and Fortuna Düsseldorf, the two cities, hate each other, let alone the clubs. And there were two blocks of Borussia Dortmund and Schalke ultras. Put them two in one place in any other constellation and you'll have trouble. But in this constellation, in the context of protesting for fan rights, for civil rights, actually, this goes out the window and people here know how to demand their rights. The other aspect of things is just how well organized fans here are. I think in terms of the atmosphere, it affects the atmosphere, obviously, but it also affects demanding your own rights. If you as a group say we are going to attend, a group of 700 ultras are going to attend the protest, every single one of them will attend the protest. That's just how it is here. And people here do not give up when it comes to their rights. Another example is like the Monday night protests against Monday night kickoffs. Every single time there was a Monday night kickoff in the Bundesliga in the last 2 seasons, every single time, A, it was a horrible game. B, the atmosphere was absolutely dead. Like, it was just like that. And C, obviously it affected the football. The football was also bad. But it continued even after the Football League said that from the next TV contract onwards, there won't be Monday night kickoffs anymore. The protests still continue to this day. There will be a few Monday night fixtures this season. Expect the protests to continue until they're cancelled completely. That just goes to show the level of involvement German fans or German fan groups have with those things. They just don't give up. Unlike the unorganized, I allow myself to say unorganized, spoiled English fan. And I say that with lots of sorrow because I'm originally a Man United fan, and I see it with my own fan base as well. It's just so frustrating that, it's a real shame because English football culture used to be, it's one of the reasons why we all love the game, and it's something that many people here in Germany also aspire to. Like, everybody talks about England as if it's the be-all end-all of football, but when they actually go to the stadium and many people here talk about Anfield, and then they go to Anfield, they get to Liverpool against Wolves, and they see how the atmosphere is, and it's just it's a shock to many Germans. Actually, it really is.
Oh wow! Not to sort of diminish that conversation, but to get back to the match coming up on Thursday, obviously, can we get a prediction from you for the score?
I would bet it's a difficult one. I haven't watched Arsenal this season, to be fair.
You're lucky.
I'll go with Frankfurt only because the atmosphere is gonna be absolutely electric. Absolutely electric. I don't think Arsenal came across anything like this.
A score?
2-1 Eintracht.
All right. So thank you so much for coming on. We really enjoyed this.
Anytime.
Really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you.
Anytime. Have a good evening, lads, and best of luck this season to both of your teams.
You too.
Come on, come on.